Hi, this is Pristine, and this is a basic lecture on quantitative analysis. Just to give you a brief, Pristine is an institution started by graduates from IITs and IIMs who have a diversified experience in the financial services sector. I am Paramdeep, and I have worked as an investment banker and as a consultant, and I've trained a lot of professionals in banking and risk management field. So this is the most basic lecture on probability and random variables. It's an introductory lecture, and it's supposed to be used along with the online classes that we have. So this would just talk about the concepts, and the problems would be solved in the online lecture. As you say, the basics of mathematics is always the counting principle. Now to count is again a little bit of a problem most of the time. So for example, the most basic principle, the best way to count obviously is to count the objects separately. So for example, if I were to ask you how many ways can a coin land, you would obviously count it as either heads or tails. So essentially there are two ways that a coin can land. But say if the counting were a little complex, let us say that I want to select a committee of 3 members out of let us say 10 members. Obviously you can count, but the best way to use would be to use the principle of combination. So R objects out of N objects can be selected in N, C, R ways. So essentially now I have a total pool of 10 people, out of which I want to select 3 people. So out of 10 people I want to select a committee of 3 people. So this is selection. Okay. So essentially to calculate this, it will be factorial n divided by factorial r into factorial n minus r. So I hope that everybody knows what factorial n is. So factorial n is essentially n multiplied by n minus 1 multiplied by n minus 2, so on up till 1. Okay. Just to remind you, factorial 0 is equal to 1 and factorial 1 is also equal to 1. So you can calculate this and get it as 10 multiplied by 9 multiplied by 8 multiplied by factorial 7 divided by factorial 3 multiplied by factorial 7. So both these cancel out. So 3 3 is 9. So you will essentially have 240 ways to select this committee. Now you could have done it using simple counting as well, but obviously it would have been a tedious process. Now in this case I am just selecting 3 people. What if I were giving out 3 prizes? Okay. So let us say that 10 people are running a race and I want to give 3 prizes. Okay. So there are 10 runners and I want to give 3 prizes to one of these 10 runners. How many ways can I give these 3 prizes? So it can be given in 10p3 ways, which is essentially factorial 10 divided by factorial 7. Okay. It can be done in 10 into 9 into 8, 720 ways. So difference between these two is essentially arrangement. Okay. Now essentially if anybody, in case I am selecting a committee, then it doesn't matter which person is selected first, which person is selected second. But if I am giving out prizes, obviously it would matter whether the first prize is given to you or to me. Okay. So definitely the difference would be there. Now to just give you a brief on the concepts of probability. Essentially a probability would consist of a number of trials. Okay. So for example, what is a trial? A trial is a process by which an outcome is noted. So for example, if I toss a coin, then it is a trial. If I keep tossing this coin n number of times, okay, so trial would be tossing a coin, and if I keep tossing this coin again and again n number of times, then it would essentially be an experiment with n trials. In case I am Tossing it 1,000 times, then n would be 1,000. Just to give you another example, for example, rolling a dice once would be a trial. Rolling a dice 200 times would be an experiment with number of trials as 200. Is that fine? And what are all the possible outcomes? All the possible outcomes is it can fall on either of its face. Okay. Now let us say that I am starting the game. So total number of outcomes would be 6. Let us say that I am starting a game if I get a 6 first. And the event of interest to me would be a 6 upwards. Okay. So I guess the definitions are clear to you. Now we would use these definitions in our online classroom and would build it on that. Is that fine? So I expect you to listen to this lecture very carefully. In case you haven't got it, then to listen to it again and then come up with your doubts in the online lecture. Okay. So in case I am calculating the probability of an event, then the classical definition of probability says that probability of an event x equal to x is essentially number of events favorable, okay, divided by exhaustive number of events. Okay. So if I were to just take the previous example, in this case the probability of getting a 6 would essentially be number of how many ways can I get a 6 on top? Only one way, and the total number of exhaustive events is 6. That's fine. In case I am looking for even number when I throw a dice, the total number of even numbers are essentially 2, 4 and 6. Okay. So n favorable is essentially 3 now, n exhaustive is 6. Okay. So the probability of getting an even number would essentially be 3 by 6, which is 1 by 2. Okay. So just try out more problems related to simple calculation of probability, and we would discuss the tougher problems in the online class. Is that fine? Now the next definition that I would like you to know is the definition of a random variable. Okay. So please remember that random variable is not a variable, it is a function. This function assigns a unique numerical value to the possible outcomes. So for example, in the previous possible outcomes, I could have had a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. Okay. Now to assign a unique number to this outcome in the outcome space, it's called a random variable. So for example, let us take a slightly different example. Let us say that I am pulling a card out of a pack of cards. The different options to me are essentially a 2, 3, 4 or a jack, king or ace. Is that fine? Now if I assign numbers to these possible outcomes, okay, let us say that I assign 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I assign an 11 to this, 12 to this and a 13 to this, then it will be called a random variable. I hope that the definitions have been clear to you. We would build on more concepts of probability in future recordings and in the online lectures. Thank you.